So before we bring Todd and Scott in, this is our last episode of the year. We had 35 episodes this year, and we learned a lot about retail media. And we did that mostly in front of our desks. But we wanted to give you a different angle this time and show you what it would be like if we were on location. 2025, we were on location a lot. We were at CES and Groceryshop and Possible and Cannes. Really, we were kind of everywhere, but we weren't always recording when we were out on location. And now, because of our equipment sponsor, Barrows, we have a mobile video setup where we can do shoots like this. And that's going to enable us not only to leverage the events, but it's also going to allow us to go to the retailer and start to see some of those digital signage and digital audio examples that we've been talking about so much on the Middlemen podcast. Let's bring Todd and Scott back in.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. It's our last episode of the year.
So as we think back about the year, nice to chat again, Scott and Tom. I think it's good to highlight some of the things that were popular. And the most popular episode, Mark Williamson from Costco, maybe because he doesn't do a lot of public speaking. And it's rare when, one of probably the most important retail media leaders gets online. And Mark's episode, I think, was a great one, giving the perspective of someone who's leading in a really important retail media platform. Mm-hmm. And we also talked to Brian Monahan, who's running Albertsons. We're going to be talking to additional platforms. I think we're going to be, in the new year, we're expecting to talk to CVS, Orange Apron Media, and others, so more to come.
This is a very quick episode just to say that we're excited about how many people we got to talk to this year. And as Todd just enumerated, the beginning of the year for us really was kind of the Mark Williamson episode because it led to so many other discussions, and people kept bouncing off of that episode as, is this the way retail media is working? Should it be all about the merchandising team? And throughout the year, we've had some really great discussions. Later on in the year, we had some other really big episodes that you may not have seen, like Sarah Marzano talking about how Albertsons should be more in store, or, Eleanor Hayden talking about how brands phone it in when they buy their retail media. So some of those perform really well for us.
Tom, do you got a rundown of like the Middlemen Wrapped? You got some stats for us?
I do have some stats around some of the top episodes. Ones that I wouldn't have expected to be in the top, maybe just because we're getting bigger, but one that we just did with Ripple is actually our top on YouTube. So I don't know where that came from, but maybe there is something to be said about federated networks and the idea that everybody wants to hear about how are retailers going to be aggregated up. Scott, we added you this year to the podcast. What were your favorite episodes?
Some of my favorites were, the Curie Masters episode.
Yep.
That one was really good.
Yeah, we're gonna release that one before the end of the year. So if you didn't catch the LinkedIn Live, we'll get that up there.
And, my favorite part about really joining the Middlemen entirely was the way that retail media and commerce media keeps expanding my brain every time we talk about it. And I find this whole new universe of ad tech and media and transactions that doesn't have the same laws of physics that traditional digital media publishing has. So it's really fascinating to see how similar technologies and similar concepts are getting applied, but in a wholly different way, and that the key holders are very different than they are in traditional digital publishing, and that the power balances are really different. So it's been enlightening to see this industry from that lens.
So Todd, we were talking, I think last episode, or might have been in between episodes in one of our chats, about this power dynamic of what are the companies out there that do self-service really well versus the ones that are doing managed service really well. And
I think we started this whole premise when we started the Middlemen, and even our work with you, Scott, is this idea, and you said it, right? Ad tech is being reborn in retail media. And part of the rise of retail media is it didn't need new tech. It was really about applying existing tech to a new area. And the part of that was the rise as retailers as publishers. And I think that's been an underlying theme, and I think it's proving itself out. And there's some cool stuff I think that's coming, that in our orbits behind the scenes, where we're going to see more publishers and retailers that even getting closer and closer to each other. And we're looking forward to talking about that as it comes to fruition. But the other thing about that is, and you're talking about like service providers and the rise of that, which is, are we finally going to see what looks and acts like a traditional ad network? And in the world of retail media, and Ripple is kind of the closest thing to that right now.
Yeah.
And I think that was what was interesting. And there's lots of interest, I think, from people in the ad tech world and seeing this emerge. And I think with the rise of second and third tier, meaning smaller retailers, more regional, and that's not a disparaging comment, players emerge, means that that's an area where there's going to be even more people talking about this and more announcements in this direction. So I think that's a big thing. Like the rebirth of Epsilon, in a lot of ways, kind of speaks to this. Will they be just a pure behind-the-scenes white label service provider, or do they grow into an ad network? Do we see more competition to Ripple? Do we see publishers try to build retail media ad networks? I think that's a lot of what will be fascinating to watch in the new year. So we expect to see a lot of dynamic activity here. And of course, in the pod, I have our new mascot. We have our new kitten, Teddy here, who's a 12-week-old Persian kitten. For those listening, he's an orange and white tabby Persian, and so he's at least my new mascot for the pod. He's making an appearance in this episode.
That's an adorable cat, and I must say that cliche that people and their pets start to look alike. Maybe there. So come and check out our video of this. It's an interesting thought, Todd. One of the things on my wish list for the new year would be an open web conversion API that actually works. I think the walled gardens, the platforms, excel inside of their closed loop measurement because of conversion APIs and the integrations that they can get with retailers and their O&O, which is where the API needs to be integrated. And publishers can't really do that in the same way because of cookies and a bunch of other problems. But it's such an interesting concept that if the open web had a conversion API that could be reliably used, how much more of a performance channel would the open web be? It's kind of like what TapAd did for mobile in 2014, but better. So that's on my wish list.
I like that. What's holding that back? Is it more business rules versus tech? Like, is it more?
I think it's tech. I think it's mostly tech, and the way a conversion API works, right? Is it's about exposure and posting back the conversion.
Yep.
I don't think you can do that as well through a media tag, and you have a big cookie loss problem.
Okay.
And then you have to get every publisher essentially to sort of put up the conversion API and feed that back into the logs, and that becomes a really big challenge. So it's complicated.
Well, I was thinking that it might be the other side of it. It might be that retailers don't want to play ball in that world yet. Or the conversions. When you say conversion API, are you talking transaction or just conversion?
Anything can be counted as a conversion.
Okay.
Credit card sign up, email form, actual purchase, reservation, whatever you want. It's just a way of saying that this media contributed to an actual conversion event.
Well, I think the alliances that we imagine between publishers and retailers go in that direction, and that's what was driving it. And I think that's where this gets interesting. Is we've said this, at least on our side, retail media solves the two biggest problems of the open web: identity resolution and conversion tracking. And that, as these retailers work with publishers, that's got to be the direction and problem that they help solve, which is that next circle. And I think, to your point, like that's going to be a lot of these discussions and where the tech goes, and it will be in a reasonably privacy forward way, though there's some cracks coming out of Europe and getting rid of those stupid cookie pop-ups that could be finally coming. God bless the world if that happens. As a complete aside, but I think that's the driver here. one of the behind publishers and retailers is it really could solve the identity and conversion tracking challenges with the open web. And I think that's really, it will really help publishing in the long run.
So, in the spirit of wish lists or Christmas lists, I'm going to be at NRF with StrataCache and running a creative panel for in-store creative. And I've been asking on LinkedIn, give me your creative examples for in-store. And some really wild stuff has been posted. A lot of it has shown me that the UK is really good at this stuff. They are basically putting out like Stranger Things collabs with Doritos in Asda's, and I mean just things that like I'm like those are our brands and our TV shows, and why aren't we doing that kind of stuff here? And so I think it harkens back to some of the episodes we had with like Sean from SMG, where we learned that a lot of the vendors in store, that whole layer didn't exist in the UK, so it was the retailers are controlling it. We heard that sort of echoed in the Ahold Delhaize episode, where their new Adhaize ad server handles both their publisher ad serving and their in-store. So for me, next year, I want to see, in-store get bigger, but I want to understand what kind of creative goes in-store.
That's another thing where publishers, I think, can really help retailers, is they've been selling brand campaigns and activations for 25, 30 years, and they know how to like upsell creatives and special executions and things like that. And I think that's an area where, again, publishers have a lot they can teach retailers, what it means to run media. And to your point about in-store creatives, like take homepage takeovers as a great example, the really creative ones that we've all seen from publishers, they have that expertise. And I think that's going to be a continuing opportunity, is lots of ways for retailers to learn from publishers.
Yep.
And, I think that's going to be a big bridge here, which is, so retailers, I think you have a lot to offer to, or you have a lot to be offered from publishers, I should say. Publishers can really teach. And I think, Scott, you can speak to that. And I think we'll see this. It's a very much a peanut butter and chocolate opportunity for retailers and publishers to come together.
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit. It actually wasn't really in the ACE episode that we had with Molly, but we're gonna one of the ACE hardware Red Vest Media people will be on the panel at NRF, and they have this Elevate 3 program where basically like skinning the aisles, almost like you would have seen skinning on a homepage takeover. So yeah, I see a lot of on-site and in-store parallels going on. And I kind of want to see more of it, because I think Kroger was similar. The ad formats that we're seeing from our Kroger episode at Cannes, those purpose-built screens are very similar to, the content that shows up on there look like digital ads to me. And those are my thinkings about what's going on, at the end of 25 into 26. Todd, what are you looking to see in 26?
Actually, I was going to tee up. More importantly, I think, Scott, the soapbox that you've been getting on around AI and publishers, and what's the right, business model for that, I think is going to be a fascinating area for you guys to explore. As someone who I was once a CRO for a large publisher, and I think and I'm a big believer in that publishers should get paid for crawling and inputs. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest things. And I'm looking forward to hearing, as you guys reach out to talk to vendors in that space and get their perspective. I think that's a huge area for you all to be, talking about next year, is the rise of AI and its impact on publishers and what they should do about it. So I'm looking forward to seeing where those conversations go.
Absolutely. And we're going to dive into that. And as I always will, I'll reflect it back into the commerce world. And what does it mean to have agentic commerce happening for a retailer and a retail media network, when sort of the consumer has moved, the transaction has moved, and does it disrupt the current state of business? Do you have to expand into these other places? How is it closed off certain opportunities that may have been there before? Because this world is all about, getting your cheese, and when your cheese gets moved, it's bad news for ads, but it's somebody else's opportunity. It's going to disrupt the industry. That's the short answer. So definitely going to dive into that part. Lots of LLM licensing stuff going on. And if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me at any time.
Well, that reminds me, I have to move the elf onto the shelf. And so I think it might be time to wrap our episode. But I'm really excited about 2026. We're going to be very busy in 2026, but come see us at CES, come see us at NRF. And we're looking forward to 26.